All right, we're live. Episode 8 of Swipe
Episode
Up.
Episode 8, and I'll say it's probably a huge milestone for the Swipe Up podcast. Our first guest, Trent Anderson of Real Travelers on TikTok. For a lot of you who have been following the past 2 episodes, Jordan and I have embroiled ourselves in the world of TikTok, sort of from this business content creator standpoint. I know that we were both sort of on the platform very casually, and Trent mentioned before he got on that was sort of his like little secret. It's definitely our little secret as like early 20-year-old men that, we actually enjoy the platform. But we've been really interested. 2 weeks ago, we sort of jumped into what the platform is like, sort of what the dynamic of it is, and creating content and what the value is there. And then last week, Trent, we did this challenge, and that's how we sort of got into contact again. We tried to both spend a week creating TikToks and do different things like that. And I would say, for all intents and purposes, we failed miserably as compared to Trent, who we'll see here, who's had a lot of success on the platform. So Trent, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to kind of pick your brain for a lot of people that are interested in the platform, because it's kind of the buzzy, the buzzwordy platform right now. And I think it'll be valuable to a lot of people. So Trent, first of all, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I know TikTok, it's like a whole new world. It's fun. Yeah, similar. I don't get to talk to many people about it in my regular life, so happy to hop on a call with people who actually care about the platform. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's so right. Let's jump into that first. Is that something, and you mentioned it, like I said before we recorded, is it something that you find yourself skeptical to talk to other people about, something that you're a little bit reserved about, or is it just you don't get the chance to do it? Like, how do you see the platform in your own mind from that point of view?
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, I just don't really get the chance to talk to people. Like, really, the only thing is if like some of Sarah, my wife, like some of our friends will be like, my little sibling keeps saying that they see you on TikTok. And we're like, yeah, yep. And then they'll be like, so how's that going? And we're like, it's good. Like, we've got a big following, and people just don't really know what to ask. It's kind of like, okay, cool.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes it can be like the worst, most demeaning thing to be asked that, like, oh, like we've seen you on TikTok. And it's like,
I know. You're like,
well, it's so funny with kind of my network too. We'll talk about TikTok, and then they'll, talk about how they can sit down and watch for hours, and they'll be like, but yeah, I've never posted anything. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the guy in the back like, oh, I've posted like probably 50 times. Like,
yeah.
What are you posting on TikTok? And it's just a different world for people.
Totally. I feel like 6 months from now, the conversations we're having about it are going to be totally different. But yeah, right now it's still a little bit like guard up, and I'm not going to post. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So, Jordan, if you could pull up Trent's TikTok,
yes.
We have a little screen share thing. And I just want to give the people that are watching a bit of context into the kind of stuff that you post. And I will definitely have you walk us through it and sort of the timeline of all of this. But the ad is Real Travelers. If you want to go follow it, Trent and his wife, Sarah, post sort of this travel-based content. And you guys have over 280,000 followers, over 10 million likes, really incredible numbers. I mean, as you scroll here, you can see all these TikToks that are pulling in tens of thousands of views, upwards of 100,000 views, which is really great. Trent, when did you get into TikTok? And I think this sort of goes in line with this conversation about like having a conversation 6 months from now, like having a conversation 6 months ago, maybe even you were like vogued the idea of posting on TikTok. So what was the timeline like for you to get to this point?
Yeah, so in my daily life, I do digital marketing consulting. So I help companies primarily with Facebook ads, Instagram ads, email marketing. So I'm always trying to kind of keep a pulse on things, see if there's something I need to be checking into. And all of a sudden, TikTok just kind of came under my radar last August. I saw a couple like kind of distant acquaintances all of a sudden start posting. It was like they were posting on other platforms like, oh, this video got 5 million views. And it was like, what? Like, anytime you can get that many views, it's okay. Your radar's got to go off. So
right.
in August, I downloaded the app and just started like consuming content. And my wife and I, we got married last July. So it was like we got married, and then I downloaded the app and started just consuming, trying to figure it out. And man, like I've never felt more lost in all my life. Like when you hop on, and it's like some of the videos are super relevant. Yeah, some things like make a ton of sense, and some things are like these trends that I just could not. I was like, "What is Martha Dump Truck in the flesh?" Like, I don't know what that means. So it was like 6 weeks of just trying to like consume and figure out what's going on. And Sarah and I, when we got married, we knew that we wanted to travel a lot. I can work remote, and she's got a lot of flexibility in her scheduling. And I was just like, Sarah, we gotta we're not traveling. We're gonna like TikTok travel. We're gonna travel just to make TikToks. And we had 5 followers, you know, and she was like, okay, whatever. So we went to Guatemala for just like we found cheap flights. We were already in Vegas for a convention. So we found cheap flights to Guatemala. So we went to Guatemala for like 4 days, and I was just like holding my phone and like filming everywhere that we went and just put together a few crappy videos. And we had one video that got like 400 views. And I was like, this is it, Sarah. Like, I'm telling you. And it was funny because it was, I mean, we had like no actual success, but somehow I could still tell like there's something here. And we did something kind of crazy. We could tell that the travel space had not been hit yet. So Instagram, the travel space is so saturated. So many people, almost nearly impossible to start on there and become relevant. So noticing that TikTok, like barely any of the big Instagram people were even on it. This is just last like October. I was like, Sarah, we just need to like double down. So we literally booked a trip to Mexico 100% to create TikToks.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I know that's kind of wild.
Yeah, and I bet you weren't talking to anybody about that then. In October, if you had told anybody that you're booking a trip to Mexico just for TikToks, I think they would have checked you into a mental institute.
Oh my goodness, right? So kind of crazy, but I was like, we found cheap flights. I was like, Sarah, we can stay at this cheap Airbnb. We can like bike to these cenotes. Like, I was like, we can do this whole trip. 5 days for like $1,200. And I was like, I've spent $1,200 on my business in so many other ways. I was like, we just need to like recategorize how we think about this. Like, this isn't a vacation. This is a business investment. And she was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to buy into that, but like a trip to Mexico sounds nice. So sure, let's do it. And then, went to Mexico and just literally pounded out. I think I don't even know. We were there 5 days and created, like, just took videos of everything we were doing so that when we got home, we could just edit stuff up differently. And that was really the start. So that was like November of last year, started hitting it hard. And that's when we had our first video from Mexico that got like 800,000 views or something. And it was like, okay, it was worth it, you know?
That's so cool. So coming from, I love, video stuff and creating. What are you guys filming on? Is it all, cell phone footage, iPhone? Are you guys using GoPros? Like, what do you guys use for that?
Yes. So I think it's really funny. We just use iPhones and GoPros.
I love it.
I've got friends who are like professional videographers, really good, and they'll post content and it doesn't feel TikTok-y enough.
Yes.
I
went through that last week, that same exact, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, that's the other thing is I think content's progressing. Like, I think in 6 months, that's going to be a lot better. Like, people are going to be ready for it. But right now it's still like, people feel like it's an ad or something if it's too polished. So we're like, hey, we're going to lean into it and we're not videographers. So let's just like use it to our advantage that shooting on an iPhone works while it still works.
Yeah. So when you went to Mexico for the sole purpose of creating TikToks, did you have any inclination of what kind of content that you'd be posting, or were you creating live? You talked about bringing stuff back to edit later. Did you know what was going to do well? Like, what was your thought process creating, being so new to the platform?
Yeah, I was basically like, I have no idea what's going to do well, so let's film everything and then just like mash it up together differently and see what happens. And for the most part, everything I thought would do well flopped. And then the things that I didn't think would do well, it was like, that randomly worked, So yeah, it was really just like spraying and praying and hoping that we'd find something that worked.
What was that first video that did really well for you? Was it one of those ones where you're like, I don't know if this is going to do well, and all of a sudden at 800,000 views later, you have a different outlook on what does well? That one I was surprisingly hopeful that it would do well. We went to there's a natural water park in Mexico called Zelha. It's a part of like the Hotel Xcaret chain. Imagine it's basically like a natural version of Disney World. So we went there for a day and just filmed all that we could. So it's like there's like this massive like river, and you can just like tube down the river, but then you can hop out and do zip lines or like cliff jump. There's a massive water slide, and it's kind of funny because there's this like massive water slide and you're not supposed to take a phone up there. Like, they like check you and everything. So we literally tried walking up with our phone and we're like, we're just going to go film and like, we're not going to go down the slide. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, Sarah, this is our video. We need this shot. So
I like hid it in my pants, and we like walked by the lifeguards, and then we got up there, and I was filming, and they caught us, and we like sprinted down the stairs, and we had got down, and luckily it was like the park was going to close in like 30 minutes, so they didn't kick us out, but I'm pretty sure they were going to kick us out. But then, and me and Sarah were both like, we're like kind of rule followers, so it was hard to break that, and we were both like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then like a week later, when that video hit almost 1 million views, I was like, I'm breaking more rules. Let's do it.
Not sorry at all.
Good Lord. I love the dedication.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan, do you have anything?
I have a very broad question, just because I know at this point you've probably, traveled to, a few amazing places. What has been your favorite place to travel to?
Yeah, we went to Thailand for the month, pretty much for a month in like January, and Thailand was just unreal because it was such a good spot to be there for a month, because from just a financial standpoint, it was like so cheap and easy to do for an extended period of time. And then it was every day, no matter what we were doing, there was like beautiful beaches, mountains, crazy, elephants. So we were able to get so much content there. So just kind of full circle, I think Thailand was super fun.
That's awesome. And speaking of content, say you're planning a trip to Thailand, are you guys doing a bunch of research before to figure out, hot spots that could give you guys good content, or are you just kind of going on the fly? What's that process like?
Yeah, we do a lot of research before, but in like a fun way. I would say like we're not the people that are buying like the guidebooks or that kind of thing. But honestly, my favorite thing to do is just like scroll Instagram, look at YouTube vlogs of people who have been there, and like see what jumps out, and then just kind of build an itinerary around it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Trent, what has your growth been like since November? And how do you like attack it going forward? Like, is there a number you're trying to reach? Are there benchmarks that you're trying to hit? Or are you kind of like paving the way in the space of travel TikToking?
Yeah, great questions. So, like I said, when we went to Mexico, I think we were at about 300 followers. And then we got back, we had that one video do pretty well, and that grew us. And then we were probably growing, gosh, I can't even remember, maybe like 10 to 20 a day, just trickling up. We maybe like 100 a week. So all of a sudden it was like mid-December. I think we hit 1,000. And then like I just started ramping it up. I knew we were going to Thailand in 4 weeks. So I started posting every day, even though we didn't have the content for it. I was like, I'm just going to keep posting. Like if I have to repost or just switch up the text on a video, like I need to post every day, because we were seeing it's not necessarily just putting something out there is going to at least draw some people in. So mid-December to mid-January, we grew from like 1,000 up to 4,000. And then I remember telling Sarah, we were like a week out from Thailand, and I was like, we need to be at 5,000 followers before we go to Thailand. Just like trying to motivate myself. And so we were 1,000 away, and that's when we had our first video just like blow up. I think that video is sitting at like 10 million views right now.
Wow.
So it was like a list video. So I mean, you kind of know like blogs, like lists. 5 cheap countries to visit when you're young. If that's a blog or a YouTube video, kind of clickbaity, it works. So all of a sudden I did that, just like, I think it was 5 cheap countries to visit when you're young. And it absolutely just took off. And we went from 4,000 followers to like 21,000 followers. And then I just doubled down and hit another. I was like, let's do part 2. Let's do part 3. And we pushed. So in that like week, we went from 4,000 probably up to like 50,000 before we got on the plane to go to Thailand. And then it was like a week into our Thailand trip, we hit 100K, because it was like no one else was doing those lists. It was just us. And I was like, other people are going to catch on. We need to just hammer this. So grew up to about 100. And then since then, a lot of other people have kind of caught on. So lists have definitely become kind of saturated. We still do them a lot, but so since then, it's been slower growth, but I'd say we're averaging around 1,000 a day right now, as long as I keep posting consistently. And it's like, I just need to keep reminding myself that like 1,000 a day is still pretty wild, Right.
Yeah. So
Seriously.
Looking back at some of the old content that you posted, or how TikTok was as a platform, like even back when you started in November, what do you look back on and reflect like, oh, that doesn't work anymore and that doesn't do well, and how have you evolved in posting content? And I think what I'm trying to get at for other people here is like, how does content evolve on a platform that's so young and on things that are so constantly changing? Like you just talked about the fact that you kind of had this whole format that nobody was really doing, and now all of a sudden just 5 months later it's saturated and it doesn't have that explosive growth for you anymore. So how have you seen that evolution of content play out on the platform?
Yeah, I think so. TikTok is such a platform of trends, and trends are moving so much faster than any other platform. So the number one thing, it's like for anyone who wants to be good on TikTok and have videos do well, you need to be consuming so much content. Like you need to just be watching and seeing what's out there and see what's working and hit it. And if you see a video that does really well, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to do something similar in 2 weeks. It's like, you've got a 3-day window to hit that trend, you know? So yeah, really like looking back, it was, I think when we got into it in like November, December, really very few, I can probably count about 5 other travel kind of TikTokers that I knew that were out there. And we were all kind of posting, you know, once a day, once every 2 days. And then, yeah, I mean, the list thing just kind of blew up, and now we're just trying to get more creative. And I'm trying to like play off of lists when it makes sense, but then just trying to force myself to like do content, even sometimes when I don't think like this isn't going to work. It's like the freeing thing about TikTok is it's not like Instagram where you put up a bad post and it like makes your feed look bad. TikTok, it's like put up a post. If it doesn't do well, like who cares? So I think that's kind of freeing too.
I kind of want to talk about how, you know, TikTok has played a role in your business at all. You know, has it benefited you in any way? Like when it gets brought up to, you know, however it may be in a meeting, or someone finds you on TikTok and they want to do business with you in the digital marketing space, how has that played a role in your business?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, for one thing, I've been telling all my clients, like, you got to get on this, you got to get on this. One of them, it's a coffee company, and I've actually started making content for them just in my like extra time. I've been like, let me just like make some stuff. And that's been a harder start, but it's been kind of fun. Like just trying to niche down and be like, I'm going to make TikToks about coffee and only coffee, you know?
Right.
So trying to push my clients to do it, but then definitely like business wise, I think we really see this as like its own business also. This is just like another asset that kind of falls in the scope of what I do. And so we've been able to start monetizing it in a decent way, which is kind of wild that we've been able to monetize it without traveling. Because most of the time as people in the travel influencer space get paid, most of the time it's associated with your travels, right? It's like creating beautiful content when you're in Hawaii, not in Minnesota, especially in like April when it was still gross. So what's been cool with TikTok is we have been getting quite a few just like product and app deals. So people that just need the exposure there and things that we can use some of our old travel content to like edit together. So yeah, that's been pretty wild. It's still not huge by any means, but I think since like April's probably when we started monetizing. And I think since then we've made about 2,500 unsponsored posts. So a nice little for sure reward for all the hours. I'm sure if you break down my hours, that's like 50 cents per hour, but it's better than zero.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a good topic to get into, and I wasn't going to get into it a little bit later, but how do you see monetizing on TikTok as a platform versus you guys have an Instagram, obviously, and you know a lot of these creators are trying to go to YouTube. Like, do you see TikTok as being the place where you can monetize, or are you trying to use it sort of as a top of funnel place to get people into and then bust out to other platforms where it might be a little easier or sponsors are a little bit more apt to work with you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think for us, since we don't have really big followings other places, we're trying to get our following over to like Instagram, and we're actually hoping to start YouTube like next week. So we're using it a little bit to do that, but even that, like our Instagram's at I think like 8,500 followers. So we're still in a spot where that's really attractive to brands. So for us, we kind of know, okay, our best bet is trying to pitch TikTok and just the audience on TikTok. We do have some good friends. We kind of have this inner circle now we've created of some TikTok travel people, and like some of those people, they've got, 150K on Instagram, and they're able to do a post and like drive 3,000 followers over to Instagram in just a single post. So it's like, I think for depending on what your other platforms are at, it's definitely a spot you can funnel your audience. But for us, we're kind of using it uniquely to be like, we might be the only people pitching solely on TikTok, because most other people that have big TikToks are like, they're like, oh, I do Instagram, and oh, TikTok's a thing. And we're coming to companies and being like, TikTok is our thing. And some of these companies are very clueless to TikTok, but super intrigued. You know, it's, as you said, I think early on, it's becoming a buzzword. So some of these companies, it's like, hey, we do TikTok, we have 280,000 followers. And they're like, we don't even understand it, but like, we want to work with you and get our name out there. So I think that'll continue to grow too.
Yeah. What's the general sentiment from brands that are approaching you, or are you approaching any? And like, what are they trying to accomplish? What do they know about the platform? Because I mean, obviously for years, it seems like brands are just now figuring out how to effectively monetize on like Instagram, and that's a decade-old platform. So how do they view TikTok right now, and what are the conversations that you have with them look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of them are, I would say the ones that approach us know they want to be on it, and some of them have an idea of how, but most of them are like, we don't even know how to shape this up. Like, we want to work with you. What would that look like? And to me, I love that, because I feel like I can actually help guide these brands and provide them value. Because coming from my like digital marketing consulting, it's like, I want to think, how can this actually help your brand? You know? So we had one company reach out to us. It's like a video editing app. And they're like, hey, we're interested. We have a video editing app, but our app, it's not a phone app. It's like a software for your computer. So we don't really even know if that'll like attract people on TikTok, since TikTok is fully mobile. And I was able to like be like, actually last week, TikTok just released that you can upload from desktop. So I was like, this is actually perfect for you, because I can show a video of us using your software on desktop and then upload it and show people that, oh, it's actually like, if you prefer desktop, it's actually easier. So we were able to kind of like guide them and shape it up in a way that would actually be effective. And that video ended up doing pretty well, and they had some good like trials come out of it. And then on the other side, kind of as we're going out and pitching companies, which we've just started doing a little bit, it's super interesting, because people will either be like, no, like that's for 14-year-olds,
right?
Or they'll be like, yeah, TikTok has started to come up a lot, and we like don't know if we should start an account or how to have a presence on there, but we're super interested. Tell us more. So it's kind of one of the extremes. They're either like, no way, or they're super excited and clueless.
For sure. Kind of going back to, you mentioned, making TikToks for the coffee company, and I'm thinking here of just small businesses in general. What do you tell them on like a strategy side of how they should be posting? Let's use the coffee company as an example. Like, what should they be posting? How often? What do you tell them in a strategy sense?
Yeah. So for companies, I would say like the biggest thing is, it's just like, get on there. Yeah. Start consuming. I tell them the same thing I tell like my friends who want to get on it. Start consuming. And anytime that you like see a video do well, put it in your own lens and be like, how could I make this about coffee? Or like take this idea and make it about whatever the business model is.
Yeah.
So just trying to tell them to consume a lot. And then really it's like, post as much as you possibly can. And even like for some companies, it's like, if you've got different people on your staff, like have different people try it out and see who can do it. I think that a really interesting thing about TikTok is it's definitely not that way where you just give it to 10 people and they can all do it. Like if you were to go to most companies, anyone in their like business department, if you were like, okay, we need you to handle the Instagram, they're at least going to be able to like do it. Like, yeah, some people are going to post really terrible pictures and not understand it, but like they're going to be able to do it. I feel like TikTok, most companies, even if they go to their marketing department, they're like, okay, we need somebody to make a TikTok. Everyone's like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that leads into like another thing I'm super excited about. I think it's just, there's an incredible opportunity out there for people who want to create content for brands. Like it's one thing to have your own platform like we do, where it's like then where we have a following and yeah, we'll create content and post it on ours. I think there's so many brands that if people went out right now and pitched a brand and was like, hey, you know what? For $1,000, I'll post a TikTok every day for you guys. Brands would like jump all over that. And like there's so many like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that are having success on the platform that get it, but they're just doing it like with their own stuff for no actual reason. Like those kids literally have their own business, like their entrepreneurial endeavor at their fingertips. All they have to do is send an email to a company and there's like cash, easy.
That's such a great point. And I like how you bring up kind of niching down, and like sometimes I feel like I struggle with that with TikTok. It's, you know, I'm in this industry of video creation and photo creation, but if I, you know, could make something where I'm just posting TikToks about coffee or something else, I feel like I could, you know, not only post more, but, you know, come up with more creative ideas. But I do love that idea. And I think that's something I need to, I guess, work on in my TikTok game. But,
yeah. Trent, what like tips do you have for people, individuals maybe that, because I think, and maybe I'll ask a question first, because I think you draw an interesting combination between like Real Travelers is a brand, is a travel brand, but also it's Trent and Sarah. So are you trying to maybe be more Trent and Sarah, or are you trying to be under that umbrella of Real Travelers? And where does that distinction lie for individuals versus like brands, like, you know, a coffee company that you work with, let's say?
Yeah, good question. I think that the platform, it's super good to be personal and to like, no matter what it is, like it's even in a way that like brands need to make it into like a personal brand almost. Like they need to have their like figurehead. Like I don't know if you guys have seen like the Washington Post at all. The Washington Post, look them up on TikTok because they're absolutely crushing it. From what I can tell from the outside, like last year, they just gave one of their marketing guys the key to the kitchen and we're like, hey, do your thing. And he's just been like immersed in TikTok and creating it. So he is the face of the Washington Post, like the newspaper, but his TikTok is like different. Like sometimes it like involves news stories or like big things happening, but most of it's just like him being creative and just building like the brand. And I think for so many people, it's like, now I'm like, oh, the Washington Post, like my like image of them just went way up because I love Dave, their guy. Like he's awesome. So that's kind of a wide thing, but I think it's definitely such a platform that no matter what your account is, if it's business or personal, it is personal. So for Sarah and I too, it's like we realized that in these travel videos, we need to include our faces as much as possible. Because especially as more people get on the platform, it's like there's gonna be people with better video like footage than us. There's gonna be people who edit it way better than us because we are not good at that. But like if we associate everything to our face and people buy into us, then we're going to have them long term and they're going to be an audience that actually like, sticks with us.
Yeah. How do you build that loyalty, or how do you see, maybe it's like, how do you see the value of a follower on TikTok, given the fact that a lot of people are consuming through an algorithm? You know, people will follow pages, but as far as like, I'm speaking anecdotally, and I'm speaking for a lot of people that I know, it is a lot of looking through algorithms. And so how do you value a follower? Or is it more important for you to be basically creating content for people who don't follow you already?
Yeah, I think it's a combo. So we really have two different forms of video. As I'm creating video, it's basically like, am I doing this to draw in new followers, or am I doing this to foster our relationship with our current followers? So very much like seeing those as two, like there's overlap, but also they're very different. So a lot of things like, especially when I'm doing like a list, if I'm saying like, you know, Sarah and I put together a video, it's like 5 safe countries for women to visit on their own. It's like, okay, cool. That's going to go out. That probably has a much better chance of going like viral, but it's not really tied to me and Sarah. But once somebody watches that video, if they follow or if they comment on that video, they're going to be fed another one of our videos. So then it's kind of, okay, let's hit one that's literally just us. That's personal. Like, okay, we're a travel brand, but like, let's make a video in our kitchen with our cat because it's going to be endearing to our like audience and foster that relationship. So I think it's definitely like a combo and kind of recognizing that you've got to mix them both in. And then I think there's some other things, just like as much as you can responding to comments. We really try to respond to as many comments as we can. And then we're actually, as we're trying to drive people like to Instagram, we make sure that we're always telling people like, oh, if you actually want to talk to us, DM us on Instagram. And then we're trying to like follow up with all of our DMs on there. And that's been driving people. Then kind of like we talked about earlier, we've probably grown 5,000 followers on Instagram. And those 5,000 are like qualified people because they found us on TikTok. Then they went over to Instagram, followed us, and they're more likely to see our stuff and engage. So I think, yeah, the quality of follower on TikTok isn't as great as other places, but you can definitely turn them into a great follower.
I have one last question for myself, and then Ty, you can finish up with whatever you have. But in terms of creating content, so, TikTok's got its own style of content that does really well. And in terms of, like something like Instagram, are you posting the same content that you post on TikTok on Instagram? Are you changing it up? Is it completely different mixture? What's that like?
Yeah, pretty much completely different. So we're doing just, like our travel photos on Instagram. Occasionally we'll share like our TikToks in our story if we think more of like the personal brand ones, not really the list, but if it's like, oh, this is us playing with the elephants in Thailand, then we'll just share it to our Instagram story. But for the most part, pretty different. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to close out with asking you, Trent, to sort of be a bit of a Nostradamus for me. You seem to have a very good grasp on a lot of trends. So looking forward to maybe let's call it the rest of 2020. Can you speak a little bit to where you see the platform going in general, where you see brands like yours going? So maybe more branded content, and then where you see like different content formats going. Is there any evolution in content that we should be aware of as well?
Yeah. Well, first off, I know it's like we're still in the early stages. It feels like even right now there's people that are like, oh, I missed it. If I would have started last fall, I'd be at 280,000 followers. But now I'm starting and I'm grinding. It's like, oh, I'm seeing people that are still taking off. Like there's accounts that have started in April that have passed us because they've hit it so hard. So I think for one thing, it's like for anyone who's even considering it, get out there and just start consuming content, but then start putting stuff out. And as we talked about niching down, it's like eventually niching down is great, but right away, if you don't necessarily know your niche, it is a platform that allows you to be three-dimensional. You don't have to do just one thing to start. So put out a bunch of different stuff, see what works, and then find that combination of like, oh, these are getting good views and I'm actually enjoying making it, and then double down. But like right away, just like keep spraying all over the place until you kind of find that combo, and don't be worried about trying different things. So I think, part one of that is we're still in the early stages. Just get on and start creating. Part two, I think brands are definitely getting a lot more interested. They are seeing the numbers go up. They're seeing how many people are downloading the app. They're seeing reports coming out that now it's like 33% of people on the app are actually above 18. So it's not just an app for kids anymore. And even if you think about that, a lot of the people on the app are 16 to 18. That means that they're like 2 years away from having purchasing power. So brands know right now is the time to build, because in 2 years, these people that are following you and buying in are going to actually have money. So I think brands are starting to see all of that come together. And so I think influencers, like if you have an account, there's going to be more and more and more brands looking to collab and work with you. And then especially it's like if you just get on the app like I was talking about, and if you just get good at creating content, I think it's going to give you so much like value. You're going to be able to take that and bring that to any brand that you want, like if you like videography and photography, it's like, we'll just kind of figure out how to like adapt that to TikTok, but then go pitch your favorite brands that aren't even necessarily videography brands. Pitch your like favorite clothing company, and then you can just make good content for them. So I think monetization the next like 6 months is going to grow for sure. And then the third part of your question, kind of talking about trends and kind of where things are going on app. I think, it's definitely as more people get on, it's just you have to have better content for it to go viral. And I think that really in the next 6 months, we're going to see a massive like uptick in production quality. So I think that's where it's like the videographers that hop on the app and are discouraged right now because their well edited videos are tanking. In 6 months, those are going to be what are going viral. So I think it's just like for people who already are good videographers or good like creatives, double down, get in now, because dividends are going to pay off later. And then for people like me who, okay, I've been doing it with my iPhone, I've been doing it with a GoPro. I know that 6 months from now, that's not going to cut it. So I need to start investing in myself and getting into actual videography. So I think other people that are like me need to recognize that like it's coming, start preparing.
Awesome. Well, Trent, I want to thank you so much. There's a ton of value, and I enjoyed having this conversation. It was one that I know Jordan and I were genuinely interested in having. And I'm so glad that you sort of came up on our radar and that we were able to lock it in. And thank you so much for being our first guest. Sorry, Jordan and I, we haven't done this before together. So it was sort of our first dance together as well. So I appreciate everybody sticking with us as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. It was fun to be on. Like I said, I always love talking TikTok and don't get to do it often. So it's a good day.
Love it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.